curious, observant tone. The Sidmouth area is defined by its massive scale, from the steep red cliffs of the Jurassic coast to the green hills overlooking the town. The geography suggests a region of significant natural importance. To manage ecosystems of this size, neighboring regions typically rely on highly formalized bureaucracy. The Salcombe network, for instance, runs its Heath to Sea project using comprehensive master plans and heavily documented central directives. But if you look for the paperwork governing the Knapp and Knowle, a crucial cluster of 8 distinct ecological sites right in Sidmouth, the record is blank. There is no central committee, no overarching document, and no master strategy on paper. Standard ecological models often treat isolated parks as islands. Without physical or strategic corridors between them, animal populations frequently become trapped, eventually losing genetic diversity or outgrowing their localized resources. Yet, across all 8 of these distinct, seemingly disconnected sites, native wildlife and plant species are collectively thriving. By looking closely at the daily practices inside these parks, we can reverse engineer how they operate as a single functional unit. Building that blueprint starts in the dark. At night, local bat populations navigate the town through pitch-black gaps in the suburban landscape. The first shared tactic is enchaining continuous dark corridors to shield sensitive species like horseshoe bats. By tracking light levels, we see how neighbors collaborate. Private estates and public parks voluntarily cap nighttime illumination below 0.5 lux, about the brightness of a full moon. That same level of coordination extends from the canopy down to the soil. Across the cluster, there is a unified rejection of high-fertility amenity grassland, the standard heavily manicured green lawn you see in most city parks. Instead, sites deploy targeted tactics to lower soil nutrients. Managers use conservation grazing, bringing in cattle and sheep to trim specific meadows, while implementing strict don't-mow-yet schedules that delay cutting until late summer. Reducing soil fertility prevents thick, dominant grasses from choking the landscape. This creates space for rare flora to take root, allowing wildflowers like yellow rattle to provide year-round nectar for pollinators. By independently adopting the exact same rules for light intensity and soil management, these disconnected sites have established a unified foundation for wildlife. The next layer of the blueprint is structural. It focuses on the mature canopy, driven by guidance from a single group, the Sidmouth Civic Arboretum. This cross-section illustrates an arboricultural technique called veteranisation, or retrenchment pruning. Instead of clean cuts, arborists make specific, jagged cuts mimicking natural storm damage. This deliberately and safely retains dead wood right in the living canopy. Rotting wood provides a highly specialized microhabitat. It creates instant homes for wood-boring beetles and essential fungi that cannot survive on healthy bark. Stepping back to look at the entire region, this map reveals the macro-level strategy. These veteran trees and wild meadows are positioned as connected stepping stones, linking up to form a continuous wildlife superhighway. This continuous highway guides migrating species out of the dense town, across the western ridge, and down to the coastline of the Jurassic coast. Applying one highly precise pruning technique to individual trees ultimately turns fragmented, isolated parks into a viable migration route for the entire region. All this engineering raises a logistical problem. How do you run an active wildlife highway right through areas built for heavy human recreation? The sites manage this through a shared aesthetic philosophy. Their mandate is to keep the land managed but not manicured. This involves a concept called cues to care. In this side-by-side comparison, the outer paths and signage are kept perfectly tidy. This signals intentional maintenance to the public, allowing the intersections to grow wild and overgrown without being perceived as neglected. At the extreme end of this philosophy, some locations are closed to human foot traffic entirely. Highfield Meadow is deliberately locked off to serve as a completely quiet sanctuary for species easily disturbed by hikers. Managing human psychological perception is an operational requirement for the ecosystem's survival. When you stack these tactics together, nocturnal dark corridors, tree veteranisation, tiered mowing schedules, and aesthetic management, the result is a highly sophisticated master plan at work. The Knapp and Knowle network functions with a precision that usually requires hundreds of pages of government paperwork. This network diagram reveals how it happens. the strategy is built horizontally. The exact same local organizations and overlapping volunteer pools, like the Sid Valley Biodiversity Group, perform the species recording and labor across all 8 individual sites. Rather than waiting for a top-down mandate from a central government office, ecological knowledge spreads organically, from neighbor to neighbor, from one community working group to the next. Landscape-level ecological connectivity doesn't always require a central authority. Sometimes it simply requires neighbors and citizen scientists quietly agreeing on how to care for their shared land.